When you begin learning chords at the piano and playing songs from chord charts, there's a sense of discovery and excitement because you realize for pretty much any song, you can find a chord chart for it. You'll also quickly discover that even in simple pop songs, you might run across unfamiliar chord symbols. To reach a point where you can see these chord symbols in any key and immediately find them on the piano is going to take time and practice. And while you're developing that fluency with seventh chords and chord extensions, you can still play songs that include those more advanced chords, if you're willing to simplify. A simplification is not just an easy way out here. It's actually one of your superpowers as a chord-playing musician. Remember that any chord symbol is already a simplification. There's often much more going on in a piece of music than just the notes you write down in the chord. The chord symbol is a way of distilling all of these different notes that you might hear in the melody, in chord-playing instruments, in the bass, into one label for a measure or two. So even when you see a more advanced chord symbol that's trying to include a lot of information, it's probably not telling the whole story. And that's okay. That's the point. You're turning this vast set of notes and complex information into one symbol that helps you understand the underlying structure of the song. And that's what also gives you more freedom to take that simplified piece of information and make your own arrangement. It means that if you're playing from chord symbols, you have the flexibility to change your piano arrangement based on the musical situation you're in. And if you're reading from traditional sheet music, which is very specific about the notes you're supposed to play, it's much harder to have that kind of freedom and flexibility. So seventh chords, extended harmony, these things are already simplifications of what's going on in the music. And if you want, you can simplify even further. Let's look at how you can do that. First, there's always the irreducible minimum, which is just to play bass notes. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom. Let it be. The next step from there is to use a 3-note chord. So these 5 basic 3-note chords are at the base of every more advanced chord type. And major and minor do most of the heavy lifting. So let's look at these one by one and all of the more advanced chords they can substitute for. Major is at the base of major 6, major 7, and dominant 7 chords. And so this also includes any version of those chords that has a chord extension. And in a pinch, a root position C chord can also replace a slash chord that has C on top, just so long as it's not too low on the piano. That's it for major. Minor is at the base of every kind of minor 6 and minor 7 chord. And again, it can sub for those same chords with extensions or those chords in inversions. Diminished can sub for any half diminished 7 chord or fully diminished 7 chord. And of course, those same chords with extensions. Augmented, you'll only need if you see something that says plus or AUG, and it's most likely to be a dominant 7 chord. And sus is just nice to use anytime you see sus written as part of a 7th chord. So that's it. That's a good place to get started. You can replace any more complex chord with a 3-note chord, and you don't need to be intimidated or mystified when you see these complex chord symbols in a chord chart. Eventually, you'll be able to play any kind of chord without even having to think about it. But you don't have to wait to get started playing any song that you want to play. I'll leave a link to a free reference guide for all of these simplifications. And if you do want to practice all these different chord types and really get fluent with them, you can take one of my courses at pianofluency.com. My name is Ted, and happy practicing.